I just wanted to make a comment about the way you guys are treating Donald Trump's campaign.
Okay.
I just want to say, as someone who had to live through the Rob Ford mayoralty, that you're maybe dismissing him a little too lightly. It's hard to really come up with a parallel for Rob Ford,
right,
in American politics. It's like if elected mayor of New York was someone who has all of the worst qualities of Louis Gohmert, Chris Christie, and David Bitter, right? And everybody knew this before he was elected, but he still managed to get elected anyway. I don't know. I just wanted to give that as a warning that I think Trump is the most dangerous because he's probably the most electable in general of all of the candidates in the Republican field right now, especially if he's up against a mainstream Democrat like Hillary Clinton or.
Let me tell you why I think you're wrong. I mean, I think, like, listen, certainly in a local race like a mayor, and I understand, Toronto's obviously it's a big city, but in a race like this, in a national race, the odd thing is that I think even like all of the big money would be aligned with the Democrats. I mean, Hillary Clinton, even if it was Bernie Sanders against Donald Trump, I still think you would see even Wall Street say, we'll take Sanders because he's not a wild card. I mean, I just think that the weird thing about Donald Trump is that he, and like I say, I don't think he's actually going to be the nominee, and I think that's going to be his own decision, or it's going to be a certain inevitability. But the weird thing about Donald Trump is I think that he scares the establishment more than anybody, even more than Bernie Sanders, because Bernie Sanders at least shows up and he's like, I'm going to be the senator and I get elected and et cetera, et cetera. Donald Trump, I think is just, I think people would just, I think there would be just too much establishment. Even those who would never contemplate voting for a Democrat would be against him. But the bottom line is there's no way that Donald Trump beats Hillary Clinton. Look, here's what's fascinating about what's going on about this race. Because there were so many people who decided early on to run for president in the Republican Party, it encouraged even more people to run for the president because the cost of losing diminished with how many people were in the race. And in some respects now, the number of people who are in the race also makes it easier to stay in the race. I mean, look, you can be a major presidential candidate with only 9 minutes of speaking time on one of the debates. And you can hide out there for a long time and just pick and choose your spots. My point is this. When Donald Trump is in a position where he's one-on-one with a legitimate candidate, now I don't even know who that would be in the Republican Party. I mean, even if it was like Ted Cruz, actually, or even Carly Fiorina, who I think is completely out of her mind. But the point is that a smart person could sit there on a debate stage with Donald Trump and say, I'm not going to listen to anything that Donald says. I'm not going to respond to anything he says. I don't have to. Because I'm going to present and answer the questions in a way, and I'm going to parry this. Like a smart politician, Donald Trump is not going to beat any Democratic nominee. I don't care who it is. Maybe Lincoln Chafee he could beat. But Lincoln Chafee will not be the nominee.
I think you're probably right. I just wanted to give it as a warning because everything that I've been hearing about Trump, I heard about Rob Ford, right? That, like, the conservative establishment hated him. With some exceptions at the Toronto level, he was just like a buffoon who had no policy ideas. And I think that maybe there are some factors that would help him that also help Rob Ford. For one thing, Rob Ford was tremendously wealthy, inherited a lot of money from his father. He was able to finance his own campaigns and able to finance also his office expenses. This is a great way.
But here's the thing: is that I don't think Donald Trump cannot finance a national presidential campaign himself. I don't think he has the money to do that. I mean, I think he has assets, but I don't think he's going to go around and start selling buildings to do this. He cannot do it. It is not the same thing. We are talking hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars to be competitive in a national presidential election. I mean, really close to $1 billion. Donald Trump, I promise you, will not spend $1 billion of his own money. And when he starts taking money, it's going to be very awkward for him. It's just not going to happen. In the meantime, he's really hurting them.